Om Vakradunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Viprishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The battle of Kurukshetra can be compared to the two forces, opposite forces operating in a person, operating in the mind of a person. So therefore, either it could be an historical fact, of course it is historical, or it can be viewed as a war between adharma and adharma, the forces in the mind. Because a person is always subject to the two opposite thoughts, forces, to do or not to do. That's a split. So that is what Pujaswamaji is presents here. That it can be the story of this war, the Mahabharata, can be taken as an analogy to the happening of the mind. So that is doing, we will read, continue. The thinker and the doer split. As once I create a split in myself, then as a doer, I am different from the one who knows, who thinks. If this split has taken place, do you think that you can succeed in life? Even with money or whatever else, you cannot, because the person you is already a split. As a thinker, I am entirely different from the performer. The one who does things, the doer. There is only one I, and when I say myself as a split person, then I cannot enjoy what money buys. I'll be worried all the time. You cannot do a wrong thing without a conflict. And every conflict actually creates a split in you. The conflict itself is a split. And the split creates conflict. The more conflict there is, the more the split the person is. So this conflict is because of the split, not the split personality. If I am a doer, then who is a knower? Then who is a thinker? If you split based on your action as a thinker, a knower, or walker, or talker, then it creates the conflict. If doer is not the thinker, and the thinker is not the speaker, so there will be a conflict. And we know that they are not different. The one who is a doer is a thinker. The one who is a thinker, the speaker, because there is only one I. So I cannot have different eyes for different actions, because there is only one I. And when you see yourself as a split person, different person based on your action, then really you cannot enjoy your life. That is what it says, because there is a conflict. When there is a conflict, When there's a split, there is a conflict. And the more the conflict is, the more the split the person is, then how can you enjoy the life? Therefore, this is not a conflict of choice. It is a conflict between me, the knower, and me, the doer. The split is in the very personality, the very person, so that the mind is unable to enjoy the pleasures that money has bought. If a person already has a split between what he or she thinks and does, how can there be enjoyment of anything, whether it be food or beautiful house? Being in conflict, the person is also potentially moody. You have to determine whether or not someone is in a good mood before you can talk to the person, and good moods come only occasionally. What you say, what you have to say, the person may feel so bombarded that he or she gets into yet another bad mood. Thus, the person is nothing but mood, potential mood, all due to split, the conflict between the thinker and the doer. By analyzing such situations, we find that this split, which is the basis of all psychological problems, has something to do with our rubbing against the law of dharma. Just look at yourself. When you are in conformity with the order, there is always freedom. There is harmony, joy, and a certain composure. Whereas when you rub against the order, you get rubbed in the process. No one can rub against something without getting rubbed. If you rub against a rough bark of a tree with your bare body for 5 minutes, you will see who gets rubbed. And this knowledge will stay with you for at least 10 days. That you never rub against anything without getting rubbed in the process needs to be well understood. For every gain, we need to know the laws. Having understood that we cannot rub against the moral order without being rubbed in the process, it takes even more understanding to know exactly how much we lose by performing certain actions. Here, Swamiji talks about rubbing against the moral order, that is dharma, going against dharma. If you rub against dharma, then in the process you get rubbed. You get paid for what you do. Violating the dharma, violating the order, disturbing the harmony of the creation, disturbing the order. The one who gets disturbed is nicely paid back. That is the law, that is the order. That is Ishvara. That is how it is. When two things are rubbed, not only one thing gets the effect, the other thing also gets the effect. So therefore, it says, it takes more understanding to know exactly how much we lose by performing certain actions, adharmic actions. It becomes a matter of self-esteem. What kind of self-esteem can there be when a division has been created between the thinker and the doer? Sooner than later, you will conclude that you are worthless. So here should not be sprint between the thinker and the doer, he says. Thinker is the one who thinks and the doer one who does. So what he thinks he should do. If there is a split, he thinks something and does something, playing fast and loose. That person is a split person and he is a worthless person. You will realize sooner than later. This process can be seen when you make a very simple resolution such as, tomorrow I am going to get up early in the morning at 6 o'clock and I am going to meditate for half an hour. You have decided that to begin the day with some kind of meditation is good and this is what you want to do. Therefore, you are going to get up half an hour earlier than usual and meditate. Whose decision is this? It is not someone else. It is yours. You even set your alarm clock to ring at 6 o'clock and it does. In fact, it never stops. It goes on beeping, beeping, beeping. Then what you do? Annoyed, you turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. Do you know why? Because the one who made the decision last night to get up half an hour earlier did not consult the one who had to wake up the next morning. This is like a husband making a decision to go on a weekend family trip without informing or consulting his wife. The decision to wake up earlier was made by someone who thinks and figures things out, whereas I am the one who has to get up. Therefore, you had better consult me before you decide anything. This is a good example for the split. Between husband and wife, there can be some consultation. But when I am thinking that I will get up half an hour earlier, the waker is not there to be consulted. Here is a problem because the waker is also me. The waker, the sleeper, and the dreamer is all me. Therefore, the one who goes to sleep, the person, before going to sleep, he has to consult the waker will be waking up the next morning. And they are not different, they are me alone. Therefore, while this plight looks very simple, it is actually a very complex issue. The split between the one who thinks and knows and the one who does is a very self-detrimental split, one that eventually and naturally leads to self-condemnation. If you tell me to do something and I decide not to do it, it is quite different from what I tell myself to do something and I cannot do it. Once, twice, or thrice is not a problem, but when I cannot conform to my own decisions more times than not, what self-esteem will I have? If it happens only once, I can always justify not having done something. But if I do it consistently, then I cannot have any self-esteem. And without self-esteem, no one can really help me. Even the Lord cannot boost me up because intrinsically I have a problem. Therefore, I am the loser. If I am together as a person, in Sanskritam it's called Yuktaha. Yuktaha, the one whose mind and words, that is the thinking, the words, the action, all are in alignment. That person is called together as a person, Yuktaha. I can enjoy sports and a variety of other situations that doesn't cost money. I can even enjoy myself, which also doesn't cost money. Whereas if in the process of gaining money, I lose myself, the transaction is definitely a bad bargain. To know this about myself is education. It is growing up. Who then can afford not to have such knowledge? Because I have a faculty of choice, I must necessarily exercise that choice. I must know the norms, which are the basis upon which I choose. These norms are known to us by our common sense. The only education needed with regard to them is an understanding of what I lose when I gain something. The so-called gain, I should be able to see how much I lose. If I don't lose, then the gain is truly a gain and is worthwhile. Whereas if I lose, the gain is not worthwhile. Therefore, the means that one follows in gaining one's ends are very important. Important paragraph. Man is endowed with free will. Faculty of choice is there because he has got faculty of choice. Free will is there, therefore he can abuse or use. Choice is there. Choice is there in using the will or abusing the free will. So because the choice is there, therefore only human being can violate dharma. Only he can violate the norms. And the norms, common norms are known to us, like I don't want to get hurt. Similarly, others also don't want to get ahimsa. This is a common sense, common knowledge. So therefore, if I do against this, in the process what I lose, that is what one has to think. So being a thinking person, to conform with the dharma is, that shows the responsibility, that shows the maturity of the person. Therefore, he says the means what I follow in getting certain ends are important. Sadhya sadhana, it should be dharmic. Sadhana should be dharmic, and the sadhana which are employed for gaining the sadhya, the ends, that also should be conforming to the norms. Because the Gita is about the war is between dharma and adharma, and dharma has to be upheld. Therefore, here Swamiji here connecting to that topic, he says the means what one employs is important to gain the desired end. Dharma, artha, kama, the three purushartha, the gaining of these three purushartha, the desiring for the three purushartha is not a problem. But the means what one employs to gain, that makes a difference. The means what a person employs is if they are keeping with the norms, dharma, then there is no problem. If it is against the norms, against the common norms, commonly knowing norms, then it is adharma. Here, Duryodhana, he employed a means. What means he employed to gain his desired end? His desired end is this kingdom. The kingdom, not only his kingdom, in fact, he took the kingdom of the Pandavas also. The Indraprastha, which was a dry land, which they converted into a fertile land and built beautiful buildings thanks to the help of the Devas. Now, Duryodhana usurped that also, not giving them even a needle, a place of land, a place which a needle can occupy, not even a village. not village, not even a 5 counties, as Swamiji said. So he usurped everything what Pandavas had. So did not give even a needle place of land. So that means what is employed is adharma to gain the desired end. So therefore, in the process, who is getting robbed? The Kauravas, the Duryodhana will be getting robbed. Adharma is on the side of adharma, therefore he is going to be the loser. So because he dared to employ adharmic means to gain his end. Therefore, he is a person not having any self-esteem, doesn't deserve respect, doesn't deserve any appreciation, in spite of it, except some character. He is also a character, not that he the person is a dharmic person with regard to Pandavas, but with regard to Karna and all, the friendship. That also is beautifully described in the Mahabharata. The friendship between Karna and Duryodhana. So, but with regard to the Pandavas, he nurtured hatred and he employed all adharmic means. So that's a problem. So therefore, the whatever he gained now after usurping the Pandavas by cheating them in a game of dice, it is not worth, because he is going to lose. How the battle is going to be started between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And the battle, of course, the result of the battle depends on the number of people, the number of forces, the Akshohinis, what we call Akshohinis. It depends on whose side Dharma is. Wherever Krishna is, there is a victory. And where Krishna would be on the side of Dharma. Ishvara, Parameshwara on the side of the Pandava, because Dharma is on their side. Therefore, Duryodhana will be the loser. Therefore, now the battle comes. The significance of battle in the Gita. Here also there is a conflict between the two groups of people. So whether it is a conflict within a person or conflict within a group of people, then there will be a split, and the result in the process where there is split, the person cannot be peaceful, cannot enjoy what he has. Whatever artha, kama he has, that also, if he is a split person, he wouldn't be able to enjoy, because there is a split, a conflict. So significance of battle in the Gita that we will read. In the Gita, we have a conflict between the two groups of people based on a historical event. One group was ready to compromise a means, that is adharmic people, compromise a means and go against Dharma, even though Dharma is so very important. The other group was committed to maintaining the moral order, Dharma. So one set of people violating the norms, other set of people obeying the norms, obeying the order of Ishvara, not wanting to rub against the order, knowing very well they get robbed. Therefore, they were intelligent people. The other set of people, not knowing that they will get robbed, unintelligent people, adharmic people, not knowing they are going to get perished in the process. They compromised the means. They took to any means to get the desired ends. So this conflict can be looked upon as one between a person's common sense knowledge and what he or she wants to accomplish. An inner war, an inner Mahabharata, so to speak. So there is a war going on in the inside of all the person, in all the people. There is a war always going on, an inner war between what he wants to get and the norms, what is supposed to be applied. After all, every war takes place first in one's mind and only later outside. This is a statement, I think, from a very famous person. The outer war is nothing but an expression of inner war. The moral order is considered to be so important that a person will sacrifice everything for its sake. In the Mahabharata, there are many stories of such sacrifice. One story is about a man who gave up his kingdom and everything else he had in order to uphold the universal value of speaking the truth. Who is that? Harishchandra. Harishchandra, who was one of the kingdom in the lineage. I think it is Harishchandra only. Harishchandra is Surya Vamsha. Anyway, so that story is right. If it is Harishchandra, then that person, for the sake of the truth, he gave up his kingdom and everything. In fact, I'm not sure. I have to check whether it is Harishchandra. Harishchandra is Surya Vamsha. If it is Surya Vamsha, then Rama will be the lineage. Anyway, there is always some the confusion between Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. And these descendants of Kuru are Chandra Vamsha. And Surya Vamsha is starting from Surya, and other kings are there, and Rama is one king among them. Raghu Vamsha it is called. Anyway, so there are many stories in Mahabharata. Because India is a place where Dharma is important, it was referred to in the Gita as Dharmakshetra. The Veda rules the hearts of the people, and everything subserves the order of Dharma. In the country of Bharata, in a place called Kurukshetra, these two groups of people have assembled, prepared to fight. One group doesn't understand the value of values, and the other group does. One group doesn't understand what Dharma is, the value of following the values. And the other group not understanding this. About the value of values, Swamiji has spoken at length. And the 13th chapter of Gita talks about that. 20 spiritual values. What does one gain by following the values? What does one lose if not following the value? Not following the value is hurting oneself. It's continuous hurting. It is the creation of continuous conflict, and therefore the split. That person cannot enjoy sukham, happiness. Whereas following the values, one may seem to lose certain things, external things, pleasure maybe, but that person is who really enjoys, who really gets shreyas, is a person who really accomplishes the end which deserves to be accomplished. So, following the value that are to be followed is not doing imsa to oneself. Violating the values is doing imsa, self-hurt. The intelligent people do not hurt themselves, neither others nor themselves, by following the norms, the values. That is why dharma is important. Dharma is not just for the sake of others. Dharma is for the welfare of oneself. And in the process, others are also accommodated. All eyes were upon Arjuna, considered to be the greatest archer. Arjuna's driver was none other than the Lord Krishna. The illustration of Arjuna seated in his magnificent chariot drawn by white horses and driven by Lord Krishna is very beautiful in that it relates to one's life. This illustration also appears elsewhere in the Veda, in the Kathopanishad. Here you can see Arjuna, the master, and Krishna, the driver, the charioteer. So, and the chariot has got the 5 horses, and Krishna holds the reins of the horses, is a driver, and the master is Arjuna. And the chariot is there. So there is a beautiful imagery is there, chariot imagery in Kathopanishad. Atmanam ratinam vidhi, shariram ratamevatu iti. That is, shariram, body is compared to the rata. Rata is compared to the body. Then shariram ratamevatu, atmanam ratinam vidhi. The one who drives the chariot, that is, the master is Arjuna. And Krishna stands for the buddhi, and 5 horses stands for the indriya. And with the reins, with the mind, Krishna holds the reins of the horses, the indriyas, and The buddhi fall in the and the buddhi, because of the buddhi is endowed with the knowledge, and because of which the master reaches the destination, correct destination. That is illustration in Kathopanishad. And here Krishna is a driver. Krishna stands for knowledge, buddhi. Arjuna, the person, and the Ratha stands for the body. So Arjuna reaches a destination that is to be reached, worth to be reached by with the help of Krishna. That is the imagery. So body chariot analogy. In this illustration, your body is likened to a chariot, your senses are the horses, the mind is the reins, and your intellect, buddhi, is a driver. Here Krishna is a driver, so he stands for buddhi. You are the one who is seated in the chariot, you are the master. In other words, you are the Swami, the master. If your buddhi is loose, if your understanding is not clear, if there is no clarity, then what happens? You can end up anywhere, because your chariot, your physical body will not take you to the destination. If understanding is not there, you will end up somewhere. You can take the chariot to Artha, Kama, Dharma, or Moksha. It all depends on the driver and you, the Swami. The driver, the buddhi, educates the Swami, really speaking. Krishna educates Arjuna. Krishna stands for buddhi and the Swami stands for Arjuna. Therefore, buddhi educating the Swami, the master. You are as good as your driver. If the driver is uneducated and drunk also, you have had it. If, however, your driver is informed and educated, then he or she can take you anywhere you want to go. In the Gita, Krishna, the driver, became the one who educated Arjuna. He was a guru to Arjuna, and Arjuna was a Swami, the one seated in the chariot. Arjuna ordered Krishna to station his chariot between the two forces so that he could see the enemy ranks with whom he would fight. I think this is where the story, when somebody was describing, stopped. Arjuna wanted the chariot to be stopped in a place from where he can see both the armies. Krishna moved the chariot as directed. From the vantage point selected by Krishna, Arjuna saw his own people in both camps and decided that nothing would be gained by fighting this battle. Arjuna found himself facing Bhishma, who was his grandfather, and Drona, who was his teacher in archery. He saw uncles and cousins, friends and acquaintances, and other relatives. These were the people Arjuna would be destroying, the very people he needed with him in order to be happy about winning the war. Therefore, he said, I would rather not fight. Nayots me iti govindam. The second chapter it comes. We will see his arguments for this thinking later. The whole problem for Arjuna was one of this: these are my own people. Te mama, these are my own people. That abhimana, these are my own people. We have this problem even today. For example, when we say my people, we mean that our people can get away with doing anything and other unknown people cannot. But in Arjuna's case, the people were not unknown. If the opposing army had been made up of men who were unknown to Arjuna, there would have been no Gita at all. Krishna would only have had to drive a chariot, nothing else, and Arjuna would have fought. But Arjuna happened to see people, he knew people with whom he was connected, with whom he had to settle accounts, and people who in the process might die. This is what bothered him, as it should have. It would bother any cultured person, any mature person. These were the people who really counted in Arjuna's life. Duryodhana also saw the same people, but it did not bother him as it did Arjuna, because his value structure was different. This is another important point. Arjuna was a dharmic person. He has values for values, whereas Duryodhana, adharmic, stands for adharma, doesn't see any value in following the value. Many people, they interpret Arjuna was a coward. Arjuna was a coward. Arjuna stands for weakness. Therefore Arjuna wanted to run away the battle. Even some commentate, some books, English books, some people they mention like that, but somebody doesn't accept that. Arjuna was a dharmic person, is a matured person. Some people they portray him as an immature person. No, he's a matured person, he's a cultured person. When he saw his own people standing, what would, as a mature person, he would do? That what happened to Arjuna also. Any matured person seeing his own kith and kin who are going to be destroyed will go for it? No. Therefore, only Arjuna, he said, let them have it. I will withdraw. Therefore, he said that shows the understanding that any mature person will have this feeling. That's what. Therefore, Arjuna is not a coward. Don't it should not be portrayed as a coward wanting to run away from battle. That he wanted to run away, wanted to move away from, wanted to withdraw from the battle because he doesn't want to kill his own people. That shows his maturity, his understanding. He's a dharmic person. He's a dharmic person. Even though he's a dharmic person, to establish dharma, he had to kill all these people, his own kith and kin. That's why the dilemma happened in the mind of Arjuna. That's why the teaching is required. If there were clarity in the mind of Arjuna, then Gita would not have come. So, because there was some confusion happened, it can happen for any matured person. It can happen for any person. Then how he handles. As an intelligent person, he sought the help of Krishna. That shows his maturity. That shows his culture. Since he could not himself solve the problem, therefore he sought the help of the Krishna, and he looked upon him as teacher and asked for knowledge. Therefore Arjuna is a great person. That shows his character, value structure. There are a few select people in everyone's life whose opinions count. You may not want to be seen by them on New York City's 42nd Street, for instance. This may not be because you don't want to be there, but rather because you're afraid of what these people will think of you. You don't want to fall short of the good opinion they have of you. These were the people who were standing in front of Arjuna against whom he was supposed to fight. Arjuna's dilemma. Because Arjuna no longer wanted to fight, he had a problem. According to the code governing the war in those days, there was no such thing as a successful retreat. Either you won or you lost. The loss amounting to death, since the fight was always to the end. Thus Arjuna knew that in order to hoist the flag of victory, he had to destroy all the people in whose company he would be happy and in whose absence he would be unhappy. Arjuna wept not out of fear. This is important. Not out of fear, but out of compassion, out of sympathy, out of care. That shows his maturity. His response was that of a mature person. He began to think that the war was not the answer to the problem, which of course was true, given that the loser always prepares for a comeback. The First and Second World Wars are recent examples. No one wants to accept the fact that he or she has lost. Not only did Arjuna think war would not solve the problem, he also felt that its aftermath would create great confusion in the society. Since all the able-bodied people would be destroyed, the society would have no leadership, and the very structure of the society would disappear because people would be confused as to their duties. Even Dharma, for the sake of which Arjuna was supposed to win the war, would be in trouble for there would be no one to carry it forward to the next generation. So war will be a total disaster. It kills all the people. Therefore, no people will be there. What to talk of the people following Dharma? And therefore, there would be confusion in the society. So Dharma is both a discipline and a life of discipline. The values that govern that discipline are also Dharma. This lifestyle, this Dharma has to be handed over to the next generation by the present one, and is not something that can simply be bottled and buried for the future. Dharma is something that has to be lived. Thus, when you protect a person who lives a life of Dharma, you are protecting Dharma. You can protect libraries, but you can never protect scholarship unless you protect the scholars. Important point. Swamiji later says, to uphold Dharma, Dharmis have to be protected. Dharma doesn't stand separately or alone apart from the Dharmis. Dharma is located in the Dharmi. Therefore, you have to protect the follower of Dharma. Dharmis have to be protected. Similarly, scholarship doesn't stand alone. It's not away from the scholar. It is located in the very scholar. Therefore, scholars have to be protected. Protection of the scholar is a respect you have if you have scholarship. What a society values scholarship, the people will sell their shirts to gain that scholarship because it commands the respect. This was the situation in India. A king would come to his knees when a scholar entered his court. When scholarship is valued, respected in this way, the scholar will be protected and valued. Only then will scholarship continue. Similarly, to protect dharma, you have to protect the one who lives the life of dharma, the dharmi. Dharmi is the follower of dharma, the follower of values. If dharmi is protected, meaning that he or she is respected and valued, then everyone will want to be a dharmi. Arjuna naturally thought that by destroying these people, there would be no one left to live a life of dharma, and that the dharma itself would thereby be destroyed. The very dharma he wanted to protect by waging the war. The battle was supposed to be one of dharma, but the very fighting of it would endanger dharma. Therefore, Arjuna felt that he would be incurring a great sin by causing confusion in the society. Naturally, he wanted to avoid this problem. At the same time, he did not run away from the battlefield. He did not jump off the chariot and run towards Rishikesh, which was only a short distance away. Instead, he dropped his bow and arrows and sat back in the chariot, as we will see at the end of the first chapter of the Gita. If Arjuna had run away, then Krishna also would have gone, gone, and the war would have stopped. Then war would have stopped, and the Indraprastha would have been ruled by the Duryodhana. Adharma would have won, but Arjuna did not run. He just was confused, not knowing what to do. So when you are confused, then you have to seek help from the intelligent person. An intelligent person here, who can be other than the Bhagavan Krishna here. So you need a good person, good guide. And in this situation, a difficult situation, Bhagavan Krishna, when he asked the help of Krishna, he gave that only forms the subject matter of Gita. But Krishna did not give the Upadesha in the beginning. In the beginning, he whips him, he scolds him by words, whips him by words, scolds him. Then after that, when he surrendered, then only the teaching started. So now, all these are discussed in the first chapter of the Gita. So what Swamiji gives here is the summary of the first chapter of the Gita. Before we go to the first chapter, need to know the context. We need to know the context of the first chapter, Gita, as well as that of the first chapter. That is what is being said here in a very brief way. And this is what is elaborated in the 47 verses of the first chapter. From the beginning, the question Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya. From there onwards, it starts. And another thing is, the whole Gita is, in fact, it is the conversation between Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra asked the question and Sanjaya replied. When Sanjaya replied, then the Sanjaya Uvacha, when we say, within that only comes Arjuna Uvacha, Bhagavan Uvacha. So, as told by Arjuna, as asked by Arjuna, or as advised by Arjuna, whatever they spoke, that were literally quoted by or reported by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. So, whenever we see Arjuna Uvacha, it means Arjuna spoke, and that is reported by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Bhagavan Uvacha, when we say Bhagavan Uvacha, whatever Bhagavan spoke, that was reported as such by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. In fact, the Gita is a conversation between Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. Sanjaya reported the conversation reported the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. So whenever Arjuna spoke, Sanjaya said, Arjuna Uvacha. Whenever Krishna spoke, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha iti. So, therefore, the Gita is, even though we say it is Krishna Arjuna Yogo Sambhade, in fact, it is Sambhada between Krishna and Arjuna only, but it was reported by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Another important thing here, before we get into the first chapter, Dhritarashtra asked what were my people doing in, where were my people and Pandavas doing, what were, that is important, what were my people and the Pandavas doing in the battlefield, he asked. What were, not what are they doing. It means the war had started. The incident war had been started already. Yes, it was already started. 10 days have passed. And at the end of the 10th day, when Bhishma was shot by Arjuna, Bhishma was shot by Arjuna, Bhishma did not die because he had the boon that Icha Maranam. That is, Icha Maranam means he can give up his body as he wishes. Whenever he wants, he can give up his body. So that's called Icha Maranam. That boon he had, giving up the body as and when he wants. But he was made incapable by Arjuna. How? By shooting arrows. So he shot arrows all over the body, and therefore he cannot fight anymore. And he just lie down on the Kurukshetra itself. He did not die. So after hearing the death, the fall of, after hearing the fall of Bhishma, then Dhritarashtra worried and called Sanjaya to report him from the day one of the war. From the day one, whatever happened, he wanted him to report. And that only Sanjaya reported. That's why Dhritarashtra also asked, what were my people and the Pandavas doing in the battlefield? Then Sanjaya, he told, he has the power, he has been given the power to see, to what you call, he has got the power to television. He can see from a distance what is happening. And this, the first 10 days of the war, what he recounted was the past incident, past event. He recorded events that he played, that he saw in his mind and reported as it was to Dhritarashtra. And later from the 11th day onwards, he reported as it when happened. So that is how the story of Mahabharata is. So now we'll be shortly entering into the first chapter. We'll see that in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavadaha.